He spent his life studying how killers think. He even wrote papers about how criminals pick their targets. To everyone who knew him, Bryan Kohberger was just a PhD student, trying to get inside the mind of a criminal. But for investigators hunting a quadruple murderer in Idaho, the evidence was pointing to a shocking suspect, the very man who was studying their every move. This is the story of how a quiet academic was unmasked, and how criminology, the subject he dedicated his life to, was the key to his own downfall.
Keep watching. What follows is a deep dive into one of the world's most gripping cases. Welcome to Criminal Atlas, and if you want more documentaries like this, don't forget to hit subscribe.
It all starts in Moscow, Idaho, a small college town where life is usually peaceful, and the biggest news is the university football game. This was a community that hadn't seen a murder in 7 years, a place where students felt safe. But on the night of November 13th, 2022, that feeling of security was shattered for good. Inside a rental house on King Road, 4 bright University of Idaho students were brutally murdered in their sleep. They were Madison Mogen, 21, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Xana Kernodle, 20, and Xana's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, also 20. Mogen and Goncalves were best friends, practically inseparable, and both were seniors about to graduate. Kernodle and Chapin were a happy young couple, just enjoying a weekend night together. Sometime between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, an intruder slipped into the house and stabbed the 4 students to death with a large knife. The attack was so swift, so brutal, and so quiet that 2 other roommates sleeping on the first floor had no idea what was happening just above them. When the sun came up, the town of Moscow woke up to an unimaginable tragedy. The discovery of the 4 students sent a wave of fear through the community. Who could do something so horrible, and why? With no murder weapon, no signs of a break-in, and no immediate suspects, the Moscow Police Department was facing a massive investigation, all while a horrified nation watched on. In the weeks that followed, the country was captivated by the chilling mystery. Investigators were desperate for a lead, anything to point them in the right direction. They quickly ruled out the surviving roommates and a driver who had dropped 2 of the victims off that night. They looked into theories about a stalker, but came up empty. For 47 agonizing days, the killer was a ghost. But investigators were working around the clock, piecing together a puzzle from the smallest clues. The first break came from inside the house. One of the surviving roommates, frozen with fear, told police she saw a figure dressed in black with a mask walk right past her bedroom door. She described him as tall and athletically built, but the one detail that stood out most was his bushy eyebrows. It was a terrifyingly brief glimpse, but it was a start. The next major clue came from outside. Detectives scoured hours of surveillance footage from the neighborhood and spotted a white Hyundai Elantra circling the area multiple times just before the murders, then speeding away right after. Police sent out a nationwide alert for law enforcement to be on the lookout for that specific car. While the car search was happening, digital forensics teams were building a timeline. They found that one of the victims, Xana Kernodle, had been on TikTok at 4:12 a.m., just minutes before the attack was thought to have happened. But it wasn't just the victim's data that was important. Investigators soon found another phone that had pinged off cell towers near the King Road home, not just on the night of the murders, but a dozen times in the months before. The biggest break, however, came from a single item left behind in the chaos: a tan leather knife sheath lying on the bed next to Madison Mogen. On the button snap of that sheath, crime lab technicians found exactly what they'd been searching for: a single source of male DNA. That DNA changed everything. Using investigative genetic genealogy, a technique that compares crime scene DNA to public genealogy databases to find relatives, the FBI started building a family tree. The trail didn't lead to a known criminal or anyone on a suspect list. Instead, it pointed them to a family in Pennsylvania and, eventually, to their 28-year-old son, who was living just a short drive from Moscow. His name was Bryan Kohberger. Suddenly, all the pieces clicked into place. Investigators discovered that Kohberger drove a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. His driver's license photo showed a man with bushy eyebrows, a perfect match to the roommate's description. And when they checked his cell phone records, they saw his phone had been near the King Road house at least 12 times before the murders. On the night of the attack, his phone went silent just before the murders, only to power back on south of Moscow as he was driving away. The most chilling discovery of all was Kohberger's academic background. He wasn't just a student, he was a PhD, candidate in criminology at Washington State University, only a 15-minute drive from the crime scene. The man accused of this horrific crime had dedicated his career to studying the minds of criminals. Even more unnerving, he had once posted a survey on Reddit asking former convicts to describe their thoughts and feelings as they planned and committed their crimes. The hunter had just become the hunted. After the murders, Kohberger drove cross-country with his father, from Washington to his family's home in Pennsylvania for the holidays. What he didn't know was that he was under intense FBI surveillance the entire time. In the pre-dawn hours of the 30th of December 2022, a SWAT team raided the Kohberger family home. Bryan Kohberger was arrested and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. The nation was stunned. The quiet, academic student was now the face of a monstrous crime. Extradited back to Idaho, Kohberger's case moved toward a high-stakes trial where prosecutors were seeking the death penalty. In May 2023, he stood silent at his arraignment, forcing the judge to enter a not guilty plea for him.
We'll stand in a second.
Because Mr. Kohberger is standing silent, I'm going to enter not guilty pleas.
But then, in a stunning turn just weeks before the trial was set to begin, the case reached its conclusion. On the 2nd of July 2025, Bryan Kohberger accepted a plea deal to avoid execution. He appeared in court and pleaded guilty to all charges. When the judge asked if he was pleading guilty because he was, in fact, guilty, Kohberger answered with a single, chilling word.
Yes.
On the 23rd of July 2025, he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 10 more years for burglary. The criminal trial has now concluded, but the biggest questions still linger. What do you think drives a student of crime to commit such a terrible act? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And for more deep dives into complex cases, make sure to subscribe. At his sentencing, Bryan Kohberger had the chance to speak, to offer an explanation, any insight into the why. He declined. His silence leaves a void that may never be filled. The families of the victims confronted him in the courtroom with raw, powerful, and heartbreaking statements.
You're evil. There's no place for you in heaven. You took our children. You are gonna suffer, man.
He stole parts of me I may never get back. He took the version of me who didn't constantly ask, what if it happens again? What if next time I don't survive?
If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your
In the end, the very tools of criminology that Bryan Kohberger studied, forensic science, digital tracking, and behavioral analysis, were the same tools that led to his capture. The DNA he left on a knife sheath, the pings from his cell phone, and the image of his car on camera created a trail that led straight to him. He may have understood the mechanics of a crime, but he failed to commit the perfect one. And while he now sits in a prison cell for the rest of his life, the world is left to grapple with the terrifying and unanswered question: why did a man who studied evil ultimately choose to become it?